Black Rifle Coffee, baby. Freedom fuel.
I just have so much appreciation for people who can do that stuff because I have no talent when it comes to that side of things whatsoever.
No, neither do I. I have no artistic talent. My mom is actually good at drawing, though.
Oh, yeah?
And painting, but my dad is like, he's good at writing, not when it comes to actually putting the pen to the paper, though. You can't read his words. Yeah, he's just like a terrible artist.
What, it's like sloppy or it's like broken
So
English?
sloppy, yeah. And I don't even think he can read it sometimes. He's like, well, what was I trying to say here?
Well, I mean, considering the fact that he's ended up on the New York Times bestseller,
Yeah.
something's working right there.
I know, yeah. It's a real underdog story, the fact that he made it there for sure.
Yeah.
But no, it's just, I don't know what it is. It's like that part of the brain. But he knows what, like, looks good. He's like, he has a lot of critiques when it comes to, like, designs. And then he's good when it comes to that when someone else is making it. And he can, like, give pointers that way. But when it's like, if he had to make something, it would just be a disaster.
Yeah, right. Isn't that somebody like, I know what looks good, but I have no capabilities to be able to make that whatsoever.
Yeah.
Right. Which is a lot of that is like human science, right? Like, you know, people's faces look good because like the alignment and the like perfection of the eyes and the symmetry and all that stuff, right? Like beautiful people are beautiful because of science in some way, shape, or form. So it's easy for like to be able to pick up and like, oh, that looks good.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can call it out like that for sure. Yeah.
But you have, I mean, if you can't draw, that's fine. I think you got plenty of talent when it comes to other things in life, eh?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I was just actually talking to Dan Staten about this just downstairs, and he was just telling a story about how, like, my dad is older than him, and, like, they went on this super rough hike. It was, like, 5,000 feet up, 5,000 feet down, and how my dad just, like, absolutely buried him because, like, you know, he's an in-shape guy. Dan Staten is. Like, that's kind of his thing. And then my dad was just crushing him in this hike. And I was like, yeah, I mean, what it comes down to is, and I'm the same exact way, my dad and I, it's just every single day we're going to give our best to get better. And my dad has done that. He's 57 now. He's done that for 40 years. So it's just like, no matter who you are, if you do something for 40 years straight every single day, and like that's your obsession, you're going to get pretty dang good. And then so that's just what it is for me too now. I'm on that same path, and that's just like how our brain works. And it's not necessarily like any natural talent. It's just like you put in the work, good things are going to happen.
Yeah. The consistency overall, you think that's like
huge.
So like what approach did you take with the consistency like leading up to this record attempt recently?
Yeah. I mean, it was literally, it's just like, I don't know what it is. It was a lot of anxiety maybe that forces me to do these things, but I was like, I didn't want to leave any stone unturned as far as training goes. I wanted training to be the hardest part so that when it comes the day of, I'm just like calm in my mind and I know that I can perform, because I don't know who originally said it, but it's like you'll never rise to the occasion. You'll fall to the like your preparation basically. Yeah. So I took that to heart, and then so for the last 6 months, half a year, dedicated just every single day to getting better at this one task. Nothing else really mattered. It was just pull-ups, thousands and thousands and thousands of pull-ups. I ended up talking to Goggins because he just had some pointers for me because he knew that I was going for the record again. And then so he called me and he was like, dude, how many like reps have you done? Because this was a week where I had done 2,000 every single day. So 14,000 in a single week. And he was like, how many have you done total in training? Then I was like, let me run through the numbers. It was 120,000. And he's like, I don't think people realize how insane that is.
Like, and how long was that?
6 months. So it's like, if you break it down, it's like a little less than 700 every single day. But obviously I didn't do pull-ups every single day because like I was still doing marathons, ultra marathons, but like on average, I would hit 700 a day. So it's just like that consistency. I can't even stress it enough. Without that, I wouldn't even come close to being able to hit 10,000.
So it was kind of like this understanding of the success through consistency, and pull-ups just happened to be like the thing that you were kind of focused on.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Was there something that spurred that, like that desire for that to be the thing for this part of your life?
Yeah, I would say that it kind of started. I was training with my dad, just like training for a 50K in Oregon in 2018. And then my dad had just like recently found out about Goggins. And then so he invited him out to the race. He ran the 50K with us. We did an hour workout after the race. And then Goggins started to hit the pull-up bar after and do 100, even after all that. And then we asked him like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, well, I do 100 every single day, no matter what. And he's like, because that's what I did to train for the record. He set the Guinness World Record of 4,030 in 2013. And then so I was like, okay. I was like, I know that I'm a very obsessive person. I can do 100 a day, I think.
Yeah.
So I did that for a couple years. Then in 2020, I was like, I think I'm going to give a shot at trying to beat like Goggins' old record. And then this is when I lived with Rihanna. Mm-hmm. And then so she was like all about it. It was just me, Luke, and Rihanna in on the plan. And then she got up at like 2 a.m. and made us waffles. Actually, it was pancakes, protein pancakes. Then Luke and I just went to the gym. And I was like, I've always just had this thing about being weak and how I hate that. I hate weakness. My family hates weakness. It's just like, I want that to be as far away as possible from me, weakness. And so I was like, so if I could break Goggins' old record, and he's like considered like one of the toughest men alive, then what does that say about me? And then so I took that to heart, and then I wanted to see what I was made out of, and with the goal of beating his number of reps in a shorter amount of time. And then so I ended up doing the 4,100 in 17 hours. And then from that point on, it kind of like, it gave me confidence. I was like, okay, I can hang with these guys. And also it was just like a nice goal to have. And I wanted to see how far I could take that. Cause that at the time, the world record was Brandon Tucker. He was a Ranger. Mm-hmm. He did 7,715. So I didn't set the world record at that time, but I kind of proved to myself that I can at least hang around that. And then from that point forward, I was like, geez, I wonder if I could set the actual world record, like the current one. And then so like that was a few years of training is what it took to get to that point. But then I ended up going for it again in 2023, obviously failed because I didn't realize how much it would actually take. Then 6 months later, October 2023, I broke it, 8,100. And then I realized like what it would take, a lot of dedication, had to stop going to the gym just to focus on pull-ups because it was just like, it was obsessive at that point. And I love to compete as well. So it's just like, why not me? Because I know that I can put in the time. I know that I'm very consistent. So I think that I can do this. And I think this record is kind of for me anyway, because it's strength, it's endurance, it's a perfect blend of those. And that's kind of my thing.
Yeah.
And then so it's just like, it didn't have to be pull-ups, but it just ended up being pull-ups basically.
Yeah. So you were very clear on the importance of consistency from the time that you first started doing this and when you met Goggins. But
yeah,
what were some of those rocks that you uncovered throughout that 4 years that got you from, like, what changed from that first attempt to, breaking the record twice that you learned along the way?
It was amazing. It really just, it comes down to training. First of all, nothing's going to happen the day of that like didn't happen in training. Like you're never just going to have like a magical moment where you're like, man, this is easy. It's like you have to absolutely kill yourself in training in order to perform, like do the 8,100 or do the 10,000. So it's like all champions are made in the training. So that was a big thing to understand. And then also it's like there's a little bit of anxiety when it comes to training these pull-ups because it's like, let's say when you're training for a 100-mile race, you want to get a day of like 40 miles in a single day. So then in pull-ups, let's say if you're doing a goal of 10,000, like a 40-mile run for that would be like 4,000 pull-ups in a single day just to get your lats and your body used to that level of stress and then going for that many hours. So it was like you start the first rep of the day, you do your first set of 10, and then you're like, all right, so let's say I do sets of 10 the entire time for the rest of the time. That's 399 more sets to hit. And it's like, and that's a set of 10 every single time. So it's like your brain starts to freak out because you feel like you're not making a dent at all. And it's like, it's really hard to feel like anything is actually happening until you're hours and hours and hours into it, because it's just one of those things where you got to completely get rid of like all other thoughts and just focus on the task at hand. And then so for me, it was like, you know, I struggled with that for a little, and then I ended up getting it. And I was like, okay, if I want to be the best in the world, I have to sacrifice not just hours, but days of my life. So like there was days that it would be a 12-hour session. And it's like, the only thing that I'm going to remember from this day is pull-ups. And that's okay, because once I get the record, it's all going to be worth it. And you just got to keep that mindset in. But it's like, if you don't think you're eventually going to get the record, then you are just like wasting your time. So it has to pay off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to me, there's like, you do the one thing over and over again. And like that's a big part of it, obviously. But there has to be a whole bunch of other factors and elements that go into accomplishing that number when it comes to the strength, the endurance, and specifically your hands. Like you look at your hands and you're like, it's hard to fathom someone taking those hands and putting them on a bar and lifting their body weight up with that at that point and that pain. So the tolerance, I mean, I think that's the biggest question that like a lot of people would probably have is like, what was the pain level associated to that? And like, how did you deal with that?
Yeah. It's funny because it's like you have to block that out. And I know it sounds like, so you didn't feel it? It's like, no, I felt it, but it's not what I was focusing on. If you think about how bad it hurts every single time, yeah, of course you're not going to get anywhere, because you're going to be like, your body uses pain to tell you to stop. And it's a very useful tool. But in order to do something that a human's never done before, like hit 10,000 reps of pull-ups in a single day, that can't like lead the charge of your thoughts at that moment. So you got to put that on the back burner and be like, I have to focus on the task at hand. And that's the only thing that matters.
No pun intended.
The task at hand. Yeah, so it's kind of like Mike Tyson. He was coached by this boxing trainer, and it's like Customato. There we go. And he was like a hypnotist, and he told him that like, you don't exist, only the task at hand matters. So I kind of took that same thing, and I was like, I need to like completely deny myself of all other things. Nothing else matters. I don't matter. All that matters is getting the record, doing exactly what I said, getting 10,000 reps, and then after that's accomplished, then I can worry about my hands.
Mm. So the focus into the actual like movement of the task just outweighs whatever your body is feeling at the time.
Yeah. Yep.
That's super interesting because, I mean, you can experience discomfort in a majority of different ways throughout your life.
Right.
But it speaks to, I think, like you went through like this amount of hardship to come to this realization, but it seems like this could be applied into a numerous different ways in life.
Of course, yeah.
When you're experiencing discomfort, but like you still need to accomplish a task, whether that be in mental health or like a physical job that you're doing and that needs to get done that's like bothering you in some way, shape, or form, right?
Of course, yeah. It's never just been about pull-ups for me, right? You can take that same mindset, and I'm sure people do all the time. It's like you don't want to do your job. Like every single day, you're not excited to wake up and do your job, or to sit in an office for 10 hours every single day, or to work overtime, or to go out in the cold and work with your hands for 12-hour shifts. That's never like anyone's choice, I would say. Some days are better than others, but it's like you can't just focus on like how uncomfortable and how shitty it is. You got to be able to push through, and it's like pain for this specific task was part of the equation. It can't be removed.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like going into that, understanding it's going to hurt, but not letting that like control the outcome is huge, and not letting pain and fear control your life. It really comes down to that.
Yeah. You know, it's really interesting too. You know, for people that watch the live feed, but being able to be there live was really interesting. And to see the incredible support staff of individuals that you had around you there. Like, what role did these other people, you know, your dad and, you know, the crew that's in Eugene is pretty gnarly. Like,
Yeah.
it's fun to have met you guys over the last couple of years here with Rihanna, and like everybody's like a stud in their own different way. Like, what was that like having all those dudes there, and like what did that like do to help drive you through this like one specific thing?
Yeah, my wife just called them rather, the pit crew, and it's like that's exactly what they are. I seriously, there's not a chance I'd be able to do it without every single person that was there. Specifically, my wife, she stood next to me the entire time, just like right by my side, making sure that I was eating on time, on schedule, even when I didn't want to, because it's like when you're going for 24 hours in an endurance competition, you got to get carbs in, you got to get sodium in, and I'm just like so focused on getting the reps done that sometimes I forget to my own destruction that I need to get food in at the same time. So then she was like my nutritionist, my coach, and seriously, could not have done it without her and just her support through the entire thing as well. It's like, it's not every day that you come to your wife and you're like, I want to break the record for most pull-ups in 24 hours. But like, she didn't really flinch ever when I told her that was my goal. She's just like, okay. And then like, how can I help? So absolutely pivot, like so important to have someone that supports you in your goals. Couldn't have married someone better for that. So shout out to my wife, Alicia. She is everything to me. And then obviously my dad, he's just like, I told him during it, I was like, it's almost not fair, like having you as a dad during this, because like a lot of people are going at this alone if they're trying to go for the record, trying to do something that like no one else has done. But I have my dad, who's someone that's done this for the last 40 years, like I was saying, and he's just like a self-made man. He knows what it takes to be like the best in a certain field. And then so he was just like coaching me up, mindset, obviously, all the time. And then I would say just the way that I was raised too, just like a focus on endurance and mindset, that's never left me. That's stuck with me all these years into my adult life. And I still look to him for advice, even as a 28-year-old. He showed up like a little bit later because he had an early flight. And then so I was just kind of like, so when's my dad coming again? Because like I just wanted to like get his opinion on things. And, you know, I know that that's a special relationship to have, and not everyone has that. So I certainly feel grateful for that. But
And is that like what's that style? Like, is it tough love? Like, he's like, don't be a pussy, or like it's like nice. Like, what is that like? Like, what kind of resonates with you as you're like going through that?
yeah, I think that well, first of all,
Or does it change?
It changed it, like, so it was tough love maybe like the entire, until recently maybe. Tough love because I didn't want to do a lot of the things that he was doing, that he was having me and Tanner do. And I kind of resented him for it. I was just like, you know, no other kids have to go and run 10 miles the next day after spending the night at their friend's house. Because like that was kind of like, he never wanted us to be like staying up late playing video games at our friend's house and then just be like lazy the next day. So his whole thing was like, okay, you can spend the night at your friend's house if you run a half marathon tomorrow with me. And then I was like, okay, that's a good deal. Cause like I wanted to go and play the video games, stay up until 3 a.m. And then I was like, okay, what do we got to do today again? And I was like, it's probably worth it. But it's like with that, when you're a kid, you kind of avoid the really hard physical things. You don't like to be uncomfortable. You want to go play video games. That's what all the other kids are doing. Why can't we do that? And until recently, now I realize why. It's like you just get such an edge that no one else does. So he was like training us for life, and I get that now. But yeah, it's like I think that he respects me. It's a mutual respect because he would never. I don't even, he doesn't do pull-ups. He doesn't do that, and he knows like how badly it hurts. And also like he respects Goggins, and he knows that like he did the record, and at the time it was 4,030. Now I'm doing 10,000.
It's crazy.
Yeah, so it's like just a human development, right?
And what year was that?
2013. So now it's 12 years later.
12. I mean, that's nothing in the like grand scheme of like human
Right.
performance and world records, right?
Yeah, no, it is crazy to think because I passed that number at like 7 hours.
Yeah.
So it was just like, I was just getting warmed up.
Yeah.
And I was like, dang, this used to be the record. But it just goes to show that like it takes one person to show you what's possible. So it was him in 2013. He's kind of like the first person to like popularize it.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. I can't remember who was the first person to break the 4-minute mile, right? But like as soon as he did that, like, and it hadn't been done up until that point in
Right.
human history, but like after like 13 people all of a sudden were able to break the record just because they knew it was possible, right?
Exactly, yeah. And it's like I didn't know that any human was doing thousands of pull-ups until I met Goggins, and I was like, oh, wow, that's possible. And then come to realize the record was 7,000 at that time. And I was like, it just takes out one person, and then now you know it's possible. Just like I hit 10,000, now people know it's possible. I'm sure there's going to be someone that hits like 12,000. It is totally possible. If my hands held up and were healthy, I could have probably hit 12,000, but it's just like you got to refine all these things. It just takes years to figure it out, really. But yeah, my dad, he's definitely, now that I'm literally a grown adult, so he's not like babying me or anything, and he doesn't really have to because it's like I can lead my own life, but he definitely offers like pieces of advice that I wouldn't think about, and that I kind of lose sight of when I'm just in the middle of a mental battle like the pull-ups. So yeah, he tries to encourage me in the best way that he knows how, and it is some things, I tune out, other things I listen to, but he's there. He's there supporting. He flew in. He's very busy. He flew in to make time for me and stayed there the entire time, was like pacing back and forth and like just telling me to like keep going. So just like a very present father, and he always has been, even with people used to think that like growing up that he was always gone hunting. Of course that was part of his job, but nothing could be further from the truth. There would be playing basketball. My brother and I thought that we'd be in the NBA. Like we literally used to talk about, we want to play for the Portland Trailblazers because it's close to home.
Yeah.
And I was like, no one told us that we were small and white and athletic and, and bad at basketball too. But anyway, he would be the only dad at basketball practice. So like he would, he would go to work, 9-to-5 job, run to our practice, watch us in the corner like this. And then if we weren't hustling or if we were like playing grab ass or something, he would just be like, come on, what are you doing? Hustle. Or like dive on that ball. Just every single time. And then so it's like, Truett, your dad's here yelling at you again. This is great. And like all the other kids were just like, I kind of feel bad for you.
Yeah.
But the point is, he was just always there. And then he's even here now for the things that I do. And I appreciate that so much about him because, when I was a kid, obviously I didn't like him yelling at me, but now it's like, oh, he's still here.
Yeah, it worked, right?
Yeah.
Like, but it's kind of the same thing in ethos that, through uncomfortability, the result of that, dealing with that over time is like a great deal of success.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what it takes a lot of the time. But yeah, it's just like, having him there. And then my brother's been to every single pull-up attempt. Always, he's working man. He was a ranger, and then now he works for the same place that my dad worked at for the city, for the water. And yeah, taking time out of his busy life to come and support me. And then with our buddy Kyle, he came out from Boston. So it's just like flew across the country to come and just hang out for 24 hours in the cold gym. Everyone else was cold. I wasn't because, I'm doing all these pull-ups. But freezing their tail off and just hanging out, bumping music on the aux cord for 24 hours. It means the world. And especially having Tanner there, someone that just has a younger brother, you want this, like this is the ideal situation, but I've always looked up to him. He's been like a hero to me my entire life. And then so having him there support me in my goals and then just like being proud of me, it seriously means the world. So yeah, it's just like having everyone there. Everyone plays such an important role. It's just going to say my name on the certificate when I get it, but it's really just everyone. Yeah. Everyone's involved.
Yeah. It was something that I bring it up because I've experienced it firsthand. It was one of the first things one of the first lessons I really remember learning as far as human capabilities go. Specifically, I did track in high school. And I was like, okay, I was kind of average, like 400 was my thing.
Yep.
And did the 4x400 relay was always the last event, right? So a lot of times when you're doing the team competitions, it comes down to that relay. And I always liked being the last. Like I like the pressure of that, right? And our team would have everybody line the track for that last 100.
Yep.
And I specifically were like the best time that I've ever ran was when there were so many people lining that thing and you're running past them as they're screaming and you're feeling all of that energy. And it goes to like, there's all of these things that we try and hack into and like we dial nutrition and the training and all this stuff, but there's really something to be said about like the energy that you can draw from other humans as you're performing a task, right? Like, people that are, in bands and like sing in front of thousands and thousands of people and that energy that I feel like I imagine the intoxication. Of course, I have no musical or singing talent whatsoever in my body. So it's just always something I'm like, oh, that must be so fucking rad to sit up there and like have thousands of people cheer on you. But like, I knew you were going to get it because like, you just look at that, like outside of all the training, you look at the energy in that room and like it's palpable, like you can feel it. And that's like really cool thing, really unique part of a life experience, like to be able to like feel that energy,
Yeah. And that's exactly what I counted on. So it's like, you can count on, I'm coming to Black Rifle. I know that there's going to be a bunch of people coming and supporting me. I have the live stream going, thousands of people watching. You get all the support on social media, thousands of people tuning in. And then, I counted on that to kind of like help my performance because that really does make a difference. Having people there supporting you and the music bumping and going. And then so I knew that if my training was just myself in a dark garage, staring at a wall, that I would be better off. So it's like, if I could perform well and do that for a 12-hour session, literally just me in the dark, that when it came time for record day, I would be much better off because you have that energy like you were talking about. And it just, then it would make it a lot easier, really. So my wife actually had a friend over and she was like, where's Truett at? And then she's like, oh, he's in the garage. He's doing like 12 hours of pull-ups today if you want to go say hi. And then so she came out, opened up the door, and I was just like standing there at the pull-up bar. And then she was like, what's up? I was like, hey. And she's like, how many more hours you have? And I was like, I think like 6. And then she's like, okay, well, I'll see ya. And then she goes and she's like, Alicia, what is it like being married to a psychopath? And I was like, he's just in there staring at the wall. And I was like, yeah, that's just what he does. But the point is, it's like, if you can perform with that, absolutely nothing going for you, no one cheering you on, no one cares if you quit or if you keep going, then when it comes to time to perform, you're going to absolutely dominate. Yeah. Just like the marathons, it's like if you can hammer out 26 miles by yourself, then if you sign up for the New York Marathon and having the entire city come out and support you, you're going to feel like you're unstoppable. Mm-hmm. And I just did it this last year, and I truly did. I was like, running has never felt easier than today because all the people yelling and cheering and screaming, it was just like, man, this is freaking fun. This is easy. Yeah.
It's so cool to work through that part of the life. Like, do you think that like what is the main driver? Like, does the mind drive the body? Does the body drive the mind? is a combination of the two. Like you've gone through trials that very few people have. Like how does the like everyman kind of like what do they take away as far as like incorporating like success from the knowledge that you've garnered in your trials into like anything they want to do?
Yeah. And for one, I don't have it all figured out, and I want people to understand that. So like when it comes to advice, I try to like stay away from it. Sometimes I am good at like mindset and pushing through physical like activities, but like when it comes to other things, it's just like, dude, I mean, depends on what your goals are, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So if their goal is they want to get like, you know, they want to train for a marathon or something, you have to be consistent. It just comes down to that. It's like, I always ask people, they're like, yeah, I want to like run my first marathon this year. And I was like, okay, like I have a buddy that's doing that. He's running one in September, first marathon. And I was like, okay, how many miles are you running like a week? And he's like, I'm doing like 2 miles a day. And I was like, okay, that's a good place to start. Make sure you do that consistently up until the marathon. And then also you're going to have to run more. Like there's just like no way around it. You got to run at least like 3 to 4 times a week, and you got to put on the miles, or else your body's just not going to respond. It's just consistency, and then every single day making yourself better. There's never been a day, even when I'm sick, honestly, to where I'm like, I'm just going to take it off. And it's like, I'll be better because of it. I have a really hard time doing that. Maybe that's the wrong approach, but also that's a lot better than being like, I just never feel like working out, and I don't like, maybe next week. That's never even crossed my mind.
Well, I mean, it makes sense, right? Like you can't slip if you never take a day off.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Especially with like the things that I love to do, world record pull-ups, marathons, ultra marathons. It's like, you're better off training a lot than not enough. Because like when you lace up and you show up to the start line and you didn't train enough, you're going to absolutely hate your life. So showing up every day. And then I would say the biggest thing is like, I think Jocko says this, but like, don't even give yourself the option of like not working out, not making yourself better. Just be like, well, I know that it's going to happen today. I don't know at what time, but it's absolutely going to happen. So you just got to like make that decision beforehand instead of just like in the spur of the moment. It's like, well, maybe I'll get a workout in today. It's just like, have it part of your ethos, part of your like, it's in your DNA that every day you're going to commit to getting better.
Yeah.
And then making that part of your routine.
Yeah. It's really interesting too, because like looking at the longevity of, you know, between you and your father and looking at some of the things I'm sure that you hear or that some people think like, oh, he's going to be broken. Like he's going to break himself. Like I remember seeing some of the comments on your YouTube live stream, like he's not like, he's going to ruin his hands. He's going to get like, there was an assortment of different things that can happen. You're like, he's going to have arthritis when he's, 35 or whatever.
Probably.
Like,
Yeah.
all of these things. Right. But you can't let that stuff drive you. And also like you have your father who's plus 20 plus years, like still crushing in better shape than people half of his age.
Yeah.
As the lighthouse of like, no, you can actually just like this mindset, like there's proof in the pudding, like between the two of you and what has been the longevity of that mindset over time. It's super interesting because people, I feel like people want to allow themselves an excuse. And so like they have these things in the back of their brain, like, oh, he's going to break himself. So it's not worth it. Right.
Exactly.
So like, I want to overanalyze why I don't want to do that because I think that will break them and that will like cause them long-term negative effects when it's actually the opposite.
Right. Yeah. They write it off as like them being smart, like them being passive, like it's like, I want to work out once a week because in that way I'm not going to hurt myself because, you got to worry about your knees when you put on all those miles. And it's like, my dad is 57. He's running the Cocodona at 250. It's like, he's among like among the fittest people in the world still. So yeah, I mean, obviously that he has his aches and his pains, but so do people that don't work out. So it's like, who would you rather be?
Yeah.
And then for me, it's like, I know a lot of people have said that about my hands, and like it's like for vanity reasons, or it's stupid. There's no need to do that. But it's like, this is what I'm good at. And I don't comment on other people's life and tell them that like what they're doing is a waste of a life, waste of time. And it's like, if someone wants to do something, just let them do it. Who cares? And I want to make it clear that like pull-ups at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. And it's not about like exercising and it's like, working out for hours and like this is my entire life. What I've tried to do is make it to where I can actually do something that really does make a change in people's life. So it's like this time around, I wanted to raise money for the Miracle Foundation. Helps kids because like kids are the future of the world and they can't help themselves out of the situation that they're in. So it's like if us as adults can like shine light on that, bring awareness. And again, I didn't raise all the money. That's all you guys. Everyone else did. But if I can just be a vessel for like helping people through my obsessive mindset, it's like the pull-ups, then that's what I want to do.
Yeah, that's great, man. Like, who cares? Like, who cares what like that?
Right.
Because I think about it a lot in the sense of like, you know, I just had a son, and it's like, well, what do you teach? What do you teach your son? You know, what do you really want him to do? You know, you don't want to impose what you know you like onto them necessarily. You want to like expose them to all of these things. But I think kind of the fallback that I kind of come to is like, I don't necessarily want them to like specifically like fall in love with something that like I introduce them to. Like I just want him to be able to like figure out what he's passionate about and like pursue that relentlessly. Like that's like the one thing that it's kind of driving in my brain, which is like exactly like what you're saying in the sense of like find your passion and like pursue it relentlessly. Because obviously it garners good results, you know?
Yeah. Yep. And then you're never going to regret chasing something that you're extremely passionate about.
Yeah.
And
that's such a good point, dude.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's me and that's my mind and that's the way that I've been my entire life as far back as I can remember. Like my obsession in high school was like I wanted to have abs, like just like a six-pack. Because again, my family was like super, and it's a stupid goal. But that's just what it was. We were like obsessed with Rocky, Rambo. And then obviously he's shredded. And so I just like really looked up to dudes like that. And then I was like, man, if I just had a six-pack, my life would kind of make sense. That's what I thought. Turns out that doesn't really help you, but at least you do have abs. So we would turn on a movie and I would just like do abs for like 2 hours a day. And now it's just changed to pull-ups for whatever reason. I think I just like the competition aspect of it. And then like who's going to give up first, who has more strength, more endurance. I love competing because my family's always been about competition and who can outlast who. A lot of the things that like my family does, it really is like competition based. Like we have the annual Hanes 225 bench contest. It's just like we just love competition. So like naturally that's what it turned into for me. But yeah, I've just always had like these little goals and like just use all my resources towards it. And in high school, it was having abs. Now it's setting the world record for most pull-ups. And the next, who knows, it's probably going to be something else crazy. But it's just like, that's just the way that my mind works. And not everyone's like that, but I hope that everyone can find their passion and then chase it with everything that they have.
Yeah.
And I think the world would be a better place because of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, dude, I think that, you know, it's inspirational to see like a few of these things, especially how impressionable, you know, young men are. And I specifically like looked at that live stream and there was a few posts that came up of like these, you know, 8-9-year-old kids like watching your live stream. And like, I think about the impression that has on some youth of like, seeing the totality and like how long it takes. And like, I think that that's something that can resonate with someone that's young. Cause like we think about how, like, you know, how do we like really reach our youth and like leave a good impression on them? Like you really in some ways like have the capability to show them through effort, prolonged effort, because like Goggins for you, like you're now doing that for other people. And so it's this kind of passing of the torch and this like exposure. Like we need to be exposing our youth to greatness. Yeah. From a very young age, right? Like you think about like these documentaries about Michael Jordan and like you understand the pursuit of greatness, right? Mm. But maybe sometimes that seems a little bit untouchable for youth. You know, the person that's on TV, you know, in a professional league, versus like, oh, Truett's an everyman. Like he's just like in a garage doing pull-ups. Like,
of course,
I can do that. Or, you know, this kid that's like, oh man, like it's something that's like inspirational in this like new type of American way. Like, it's so American. It's so just like bootstrap. It's just like nothing. It's just a bar. Like I love it. Like it's just grab that bar and do it as many times as you can, you know, like, it's something. And, you know, I love the relationship I have with it too, because like the Marine Corps is the only like branch that has like a pull-up standard. Yeah. And it's a physical fitness test. And so like you had to be good at that thing. Like that was the, like, you show up to the new unit, like get on that bar. Like, I still think of, it's so cool. Like you go to back, I went back to Camp Pendleton a couple years ago, and like, it's one of those things, you know, the world changes so fast, but you like go back to the base and like, it's the same. Like you like, you find some reliefs and like some things don't change. Right. But like, I kind of had this like trip down memory lane, and I was driving around to all these different places that we used to train at and stuff like, and, you know, I went through this sniper in-doc in this like one little area. And it was the same place where they filmed Heartbreak Ridge, that movie with Clint Eastwood. Yeah. And like in between there, like you just drive and there's just like, there's pull-up bars everywhere. Yeah. Right. You know, and I stopped, and there's like, you know, these set of pull-up bars that are different heights and stuff. And there's just like this raggedy tape hanging off the pull-up bar, you know, and you're just like, you just look at that, God, it's so gritty and raw. Like you just jump up there and you want to start banging it, because it's so ingrained into like that, like, man, there's nothing like in that bootstrap, like do more with less. Yeah. And I love that. And I think running is like pure and primal in that same way, right? Oh yeah. To where it's just like, you don't need anything, man. No. Like you don't need fancy equipment. You don't need a gym membership. Just like, you just go. Yeah, no, just shoes and yourself. Yeah. In a winning mindset. But no, I think that is right. And I want to make that clear. There's like no qualification for trying to get the record for pull-ups. You literally just need a bar and yourself. Yeah. And then maybe like a Saturday to kill. So it's like everyone has that, so everyone can enter. And I hope people do. But yeah, I think it's important, just like you said, people being able to see the prolonged effort, and how I'm literally nothing special. I'm just someone who has like an obsessive mind. I am a little like crazy in that sense, a little bit of a psycho when it comes to like working out and like chasing your goals and whatnot. But I hope people can understand that, like, in order for me to be able to do what I did on February 1st and like set that record, it was months and months of preparation and just by myself. And that's what it takes to get great at anything. It's like you have to like have it in your mind. You want to get better at this certain task. And then you just put in the work every single day for hours and hours and hours, no matter what it is. For school, it's like the same logic applies. For getting better at your job, same logic applies. For getting better if you're, whatever your job is, the same logic is going to apply. So if kids can pick that up and understand that nothing comes easy in this life, but it's hard work, it's discipline, and it's a mindset, and you got to show up every day with the want to get better, then you will. So that's like the biggest thing that I want people to take away. It's never just, it's not pull-ups. It was for me, but for you, it's going to be something different. But I hope that you can take that mindset and use it to become better at what you love. Yeah. I mean, something comes to mind specifically, like when you say like, doesn't matter what it is. Like, I really love and appreciate writing, and Stephen King's memoir is like, it says that thing like, how do you become a good writer? Like, do it every day.
Yeah.
Sit down and write it every day.
Right.
And it's like, I think the messaging is so simple that sometimes people avoid it because it's like, it can't be that easy, right? Like, there's got to be some like secret sauce that I can't touch or whatever. But I think the last question, or and you kind of alluded to it earlier, but like, what's next, and do you feel like this is something that's going to be a part of your life forever, or are you kind of over it, or where your head at now?
Yeah. Well, just real quick to touch on that point, it really is that easy, and that's the biggest lie that anyone will ever tell you, is that it's not that easy, but it is. But simple doesn't mean easy. It's like there's nothing really easy about doing 10,000 pull-ups in a single day. But like the mechanism is you literally just grab the bar and you pull yourself up, and then eventually over time you get to 10,000. And it's like stupid easy in that sense. But to get to that point, not so much. But as far as what's next, I have about 1 million marathons that I'm doing this year. And then I have that last man standing race with Nick Bear in May. And I would love to be the last man standing because that's just kind of my whole thing. It's like, if I can just have everyone else quit and I'm not done yet, then that would feel great for me. That's just like everything about my life is that race. But as far as like the pull-ups go, I'm in such great shapes for pull-up that the 12-hour record, I would have broken it if I just applied for that one. I think I got close to like 7,000, and the current record is like 5,700. So like that would have broken the current 12-hour record, but you can only, with Guinness right now, you can only break one record at a time. So it's like, of course, there's the pull-up records I could go after. There's this one Argentinian kid who does a pull-up for every single day of the year. So like January 10th, he does 10 pull-ups. When you get to the summertime, he's doing like whatever, it's like 160 pull-ups without dropping from the bar.
Oh,
yeah. So like that's the caveat, is like you can't drop from the bar. So he's doing 160 in a single set.
Oh, that's interesting.
So last year he completed all the way to 366 because it was leap year. He did it one set of 366 reps, and now he, like a local Argentinian newspaper wrote an article about me, and then he saw that, and so now his goal is to break that record. And part of me is like, okay, if he does break it, I know that I have more in the tank, and then I want to show him up again because I don't know. I just like, I love competing and then being the best in the world at something. Like that feels really good. I love competition, but I also love running, and I love that it also is not going to give me like severe arthritis in a couple of years like pull-ups does. So it's like I've reached my goal, that the 10,000 reps in 24 hours, first person to do that. I feel like that's kind of like done if I wanted it to be, and I think I probably should be.
And what was the math on that as far as like how you approached it? Was it every minute on the minute, or was it every 30 seconds on the?
Yeah, well, it actually came from Goggins. I was doing 10 reps every set. And he was like, that's too long on the bar. Like, you're going to pay for that later. So he recommended that I drop it from 10 to 6. So then I did 6 every 30 seconds. That was like for the first 12 hours. And then so I built this huge cushion. Like I said, I hit like 7,000 in the first 12 hours to where I could just coast on the last 12 because.
So 12 a minute?
12 a minute, yeah.
For the first 12 hours?
Yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah, so I was flying.
Yeah.
I was flying, but I dropped down from like 180 to 165 as well. So like everything was dialed. Went to bed hungry, woke up skinny. Every girl's dream. That was me for like 2 months. And it's like that in itself is really hard to do. It's like go to bed hungry. It's especially when your house is full of food, good food. You're like, oh man, I just want to sneak something. But it's like, I'm going to pay for it when the day comes. So I might as well stay disciplined right now. Pay now. Achieve your goal later. So that's just what I told myself. But yeah, Goggins recommended that I drop from 10 to 6, and so I did. But yeah, I mean, pull-ups, been there, done that. Broke the record twice. I kind of feel like it's done if I wanted it to be. What I would like to do is like these ultra marathons, it's kind of there for the taking. Obviously, you got to be a beast to like train for it and then to show up and run for days at a time. But I think that just the way that I'm wired, I kind of can compete with these guys, and I kind of want to just to see what I'm made out of. It's a different challenge, a lot of miles on your feet, but I love the training aspect of training for ultras, and then like the Moab 240. Like I want to do that next year, and I don't know if I'll win it, but I want to make it to where I could make it interesting at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, it's always something new. That's where my mind goes. It's just like these big goals because I need big goals to chase after. So if it's not pull-ups, it's going to be something like that.
Yeah. Well, rad, man. Thanks for coming. And
yeah,
I'm sure you'll continue to be inspirational and impress people.
Man, I hope. But yeah, thanks for having me on. And Black Rifle, absolutely clutch. Setting up the event and just being part of that entire day and then inviting me on here. You guys are awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Thank you.